Hello and welcome to this part of my Orc Codex overview review, complete in-depth videos talking about the whole of the codex, going through each of the unit types. Today I'll be talking about heavy support. You can see there, right there, that's a grot rigger. He's a little Gretchen snot little creature that's on board of a looted basilisk. Yeah, that's pretty looted. There's even a little guy on the top riding that. So, in this edition they did away with looted vehicles, which is pretty terrible. They kind of wanted to go with more WYSIWYG vehicles, like that's why they're putting pictures of their own models, because they're trying to move away from people being more creative and custom building things and saving money, and it's not really cutting too much of a cost from GW's margin, but they kind of don't want you to do that. They want you to be creative in painting, buy their paints and be creative there, but they don't really want you to be that creative when you're model building, which is a shame, because they keep pushing this thing about hobby, and they're only more and more interested in the hobby aspect rather than the gaming. But why do you bring out like 120 quid, or at the moment £150 Space Wolves codexes, limited edition, things like that? It's one hand saying one thing and the other hand is doing something else. So anyway, that's my rant over, because these are supposed to be informative videos. They did away with looted vehicles, but it just illustrates one of my heavy support choices, and here we're going to go through the rest of the book. The first heavy support, and heavy support is undoubtedly the best section in this whole army, and that is quite strange for such an assault army, in your face, stabby type, close combat type of army. It's strange that heavy support would be jam-packed full of just, well, in my opinion, too many things. In the old codex, heavy support consisted of 2 pages. It consisted of your battle wagon, which you see on the right, flash kits, big guns, looted wagon, killer cans and dread. That's all it consisted of. Alright, so, but your looted wagon, you could say that basilisk that I showed you could have been my looted wagon. Quite cheap. You can say that the actual basilisk cannon could be a boom gun, and then it loses its transport capacity, which is fine. You could say that it's tank open topped, which it kind of is, and that really sucks that they've done away with looted wagons. I would have liked to have seen them with looted wagon and then something that they've built, something that you don't get a model of, and maybe in a White Dwarf or Warhammer Vision or something, put that in there and show how they made that. With a couple of different kits, so that would encourage you to buy 2 or 3 kits and make a really nice looking looted wagon. But they're not like that. Anyway, I'm trying to not be negative. This is the first time I've been negative as time runs on, but I shouldn't be, because this section is incredible. The first thing you've got is mech guns. Now, they completely replaced the big guns. You can still buy big guns off their website, which is strange, but they are cheaper. They're so cheap. They're 18 points compared to the last edition, where they're a little bit more expensive. You get 1 mech gun and 2 Gretchen. Before, you had 1 to 3 guns. You can have an additional 4 mech guns. You can have 5 mech guns there for 1 heavy support choice. Now that is incredible. They've brought them up a bit so that they have got the the wounds. They don't have armour or anything like that. You don't have to have a runt herd. These little Gretchen can just operate these themselves. So they count as artillery, and they've got, so they've got wounds and toughness, which is excellent. And you can actually have 6 different types of weapons. So you could have 5 in 1 heavy support choice with 5 different weapons if you so wish. But at about £28 per kind of kit, you're then looking at £150 for 5 models, which I suppose isn't too bad considering, but the models are quite small, and the amount of plastic you get for £30, I think they would have been better pricing them at about 20 20 would be a good cut-off point, because then they could do a deal where you know, you got 6 for 100 or something like that, or 5 for 80 or 90, something like that. But anyway, who am I to say about that? So you've got these different weapons: the lobber, the zap gun, the bubble chucker, custom mega cannon, smasher gun, and the tractor cannon. Tractor cannon is the anti-air, so that's excellent. You could have 2 or 3 of these, hide them somewhere, and they can bring down flyers for, you know, about 50 odd points. They can bring down 100-point flyers. That's the mech guns. Then you've got the battle wagon, which is incredible. Compared to the last battle wagon, obviously it's got hull points now. You can transport your 20 models normally. However, the kill cannon rule, where it drops that to 12, still applies. It's got kind of all the big things that you'd normally have. You can take the things from the vehicle equipment list. You can take all the bigger... It doesn't have examples of what you can kit it out. In the last edition, you had things like Goldbag's Gobsmasher, where it had kill cannon, hard case, armour plates, cannon, 2 rocket launchers, and it gave you the points for that if you wanted to use that, which is excellent. But they don't have any of those like examples there. That they would have benefited if they did that, and then you could just make 3 examples of them and go around with them. Points wise though, they're more expensive now. Not really sure why. They are more expensive, and you're getting a very similar model. They're bigger though, and they look really cool now. There you go, that's Battle Wagon. Pretty good. You can carry up to the 20, so you could have your squad of tank busters or burner boys, or just a squad of 20 knobs or something like that, or 20 orc boys. I mean, 20 orc boys getting out, that could be quite damaging. You could even have 10 flash gits in there jumping out. That would be, yeah, pretty powerful in terms of the damage. However, obviously flash gits are heavy support, so already you've got 2 heavy support choices chosen in kind of one unit, if you want to call it that. So that's why this whole codex kind of, you know, caters. It's saying use more troops, but they haven't added any more troops, in my opinion. But at the same time, it's catering more for unbound lists, because they're giving you so many heavy support choices. As I said in the last codex, there were 6. In this codex there are 8, but really what they've done is they've just added the Gorkonaut and Morkonaut. That's the Battle Wagon, very good choice there. Then you've got the Death Dread and the Killer Cans. Now, Death Dread is pretty cheap when you look at it. It's cheaper than a Space Marine Dreadnought. It's got same armour, it's got same attacks, probably more attacks actually. It's got worse ballistic skill, but same weapon skill. So, punch for punch, if it got in first, I mean, they go by initiative order. I think that the Space Marine Dreadnought could probably have it. It's quite easy to get penetrating hits, and it probably blow it up first. However, you know, Death Dread against, you know, lightly armoured things other than Dreadnoughts, like vehicles, it would just mince, because it's got the Power Claw, and you can have 2 extra Power Claws. But compared to the last codex, it's actually gone up in price. So they've upped the price, but we all know that Dreadnoughts aren't that good in this kind of 7th edition, if you want to call it that. But they're still really cool models, and you know, if you like the model, get the model. Killer Cans, this is a very soft spot, sore spot for many people, including myself. They've gone up by 15 points per model. 15 points, it's terrible. Before, you could only have 1 to 3 in a unit. Here though, you can have 6, because a unit is 1, unit composition is 1, and you can include up to 5 additional. So you can have 6 rather than 3. So yeah, that does mean you can have an army, a legit army, with 18 killer cans. You know, 18 killer cans will cost you about 180 quid, but I think that's quite cheap to see that many. But points wise, yeah, they've gone up. And they've got this new thing called a can claw, but it's just silly. I mean, what they've done is, before their claw was just a Dreadnought close combat weapon, alright? And this is way back when Dreadnought close combat weapons were kind of all the same strength. But what you've got now is I'm just going to stretch over, is you've now got a position where what they've done in the rules is they've made this Power Claw exactly the same strength as this claw. Now, I'm afraid that is a bit of a fail. How can that claw be less of a strength than just your normal equipped power claw? That does not work. It doesn't, and they were absolutely silly to do that. They bumped up the price in points, and they've nerfed them. You can have more of them, but really, what's the point? Because the strength of their claw is only going to be 7 because it's +2 strength. So the can is 5 and +2 strength. Yeah, that just, in my head that doesn't work, and for you all guys that doesn't work either. So they've nerfed them up in price, and the claw is not as good at all. Still AP2, all right, which is good. But it's the strength aspect, and some might say, well, strength 7, that's still quite good. Well, no, it means that a little killer can can't take on a Land Raider, because it just hasn't got that strength to initially get through. It's got the armor penetration to make the damage, you know, escalate, but it just does not have the strength initially. So you can't get killer can, you can't charge killer cans against anything with armor 14, and there's so many things going around like the monolith and your Land Raider, and anyway, that's on a tangent. And I've also got this cowardly grots rule where if they suffer 25% or more, so if you've got a squad of 3 like I have and one dies, then you've got to roll this d6, and basically you've got a more than 50% chance to pass it. But if you fail it, then the every model is like shaken. They don't lose a whole point, but they're shaken, and it's just like, wow. So you've upped the price in points, and not only have you changed the power claw to 7, you've added this weird rule about cowardly grots, which wouldn't be affected anyway, considering they'd all be in a big mob, or they'd be near a load of orc boys, or not that far from a knob somewhere. You've added that, and so you up the price, nerf the can claw, and you're given this silly special rule. So why? You know, that's not the kind of way to increase buying models. And I'm not saying that, well, I don't know. I think that GW, I think the rules are important, because I think that rules do influence you know, the price of models. That Imperial Knight Titan, they wouldn't be charging 85 quid for that if it didn't have a destroyer weapon, or you know, rapid fire battle cannon. If that just had a strength 12 chainsaw and just a normal battle cannon, and it didn't have void shields, then, or iron shields, I beg my pardon, they wouldn't be charging that much. So anyway, and of course, if you decide to go for killer cans, please just now check out the size comparisons. This is an old school killer can that came out way back in like 2001, 2002, something like that. It's all metal. I think they cost about 8 quid, 9 quid at the time, which is awesome, because in a way they were pretty cheap. You could have 1 or 2 or 3. Now I think the minimum is about 3. But they did release the new plastic kits quite a while ago, in the 2000s. I can't remember exactly when, but when they did, I thought they looked cool, but I didn't pay them too much of attention, because I had my Titan and things like that. But if you just look at the size difference in the old model to the newer model, I mean, already the round base makes it look bigger. In fact, the base probably is bigger. Yeah, that's a first. The base is bigger than the previous model, and the whole model looks bigger. I mean, look at it. It's it's probably similar height, but then it's got these added shoulder pads. It's got these funky pipes and power plants coming out, and the other one was quite streamlined. If you look at that, it's got this huge power claw thing. I mean, that claw was quite big for its time, but you look at the size of that. I mean, this does go back to the rules, really, in that I don't know why they changed it to plus 2 strength, so now you're looking at strength 2. I mean, it's still AP2, which is fine, but it means that it can't really insta-kill all those, just a normal Space Marine captain on a toughness 4 if he's got an invulnerable save. It won't kill him outright, which really sucks in a way, because getting a Gretchen to kill like a Space Marine captain, which just sounds epic. Just sounds like this little Gretchen in there is just, you know, had so much energy drink in that day that he's gone and, you know, crushed a captain in half. And the gun is pretty big as well. I mean, you know, but compared to the old model, bigger, better. Well, not better, but rules-wise. But yeah, so, but then if we look at how big a killer can is now compared to a dreadnought of a similar era, they're almost the same size, you know. I think a dreadnought is just a little bit higher without the spikes and the power plant. But this was the one from Black Reach, so you didn't get the power plant that kind of jutted out. But look at that Space Marine equivalent there. It's almost the same size, and it's only a killer can. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that as we were talking about killer cans. Thought I'd show you some size comparisons. Let's carry on with the rest of the video. So anyway, that's just a tangent. Killer cans, nice models still, really nice, but they have nerfed them. Right, which leads me on to Gorkonauts and Morkonauts. They initially look good. Again, I think they suffer from the same thing as killer cans now. They look really nice. I mean, they're a nice model. I don't know how they kind of move, because the belly is just so big, and there's been talks about the engine, where on earth is that, and, you know, how do they actually move across? It just doesn't make sense given, you know, the ground clearance there. But you question in the physics of a model, of a plastic model for starters, and a model that's based on something that's, you know, in the 41st millennium, which we're not in. So that's questionable. But anyway, they suffering from this power claw. That should be a destroyer weapon. It's huge. It's bigger than an orc. I can't see why, if it's got enough power to move all of that around, 6 models, big shooters, rocket launchers, a massive cannon there, all the armour that it's got on. If it's got all of that power, it would have enough power to have that as a D weapon. And the actual mega shooter, it fires a lot of shots, but that's about it. It's not as amazing as I thought it would be, and it's a lot of points. You see, that's a lot of points for one model. Yeah, it's got a decent number of hull points and attacks, but its initiative is slow. Strength is good, and its armour is quite decent actually. But I really thought that this would be like an orc version of a Knight Titan, but it's not. And I don't think there will be, because the Knight Titans are just, you know, so unique. But anyway, they're really nice models. But again, if you look at the price of them, 65 quid, and the Orc Stomper is a fiver more. And in my opinion, that's a much nicer model. A lot more plastic there as well. And I remember that I got my Stomper for 60 and not 65. So actually, I paid less than what these are now. The Morkonaut is better though, in my opinion, because it's got the custom mega cannon, and the it can take a custom force field, which is awesome, which the other one can't, and it's got a custom mega blaster. So it's really like a plasma, invulnerable save, moving behemoth thing, and it's cheaper. So I think that's a better option. I'm sorry if this video is too long, but tough. Heavy support is a big section. And finally, we go to the looters and the flash kits. Looters, I get they've got that 48-inch range def gun, but flash kits, what were they thinking? Did they just look at the pages and go, oh well, we need something on this page for heavy support to make it 8 choices for heavy support when you can only choose 3? I don't know what they were thinking, but flash kits, you should be an elite. You're a squad of knobs on the big bases. You can't even take heavy armour. I thought it was some kind of misprint, but they can't take heavy armour. And I'm thinking, these are the guys that have the best weapons of the Orc army, the snaz, you know, the snaz guns, really flashy big weapons. Pirate, they loot, whatever. Well, they're not looters, but you get what I mean. You know, they grow a lot of teeth because they're quite rich. But yet they're in heavy support. They can't get heavy armour. Their guns are pretty decent though. You know, you pop these out of a Morkonaut or a truck or battle wagon, and they will give you your points worth. The points are quite reasonable for them. Again, they've all got 2 wounds because they're knobs, but heavy armour, no, if they had heavy armour, they'd be a super awesome unit. Heavy armour and in elites, that's where they should be. I've been talking about flash kits because I love the models. I think they're great models. Looters though, with flash kits, if you have them in a squad of 5, they probably will survive because in a way that's 10 wounds. But you do only get your 6 plus t-shirt save. The Games Workshop are kind of like wanting you to get 10 because they will die with 6 plus. Looters, on the other hand, they can't get heavy armour either, which is strange because they loot weapons, kind of like for their living and everything. So with flash kits, I forgot to mention that you can have an extra 5, so the maximum squad you can have is 10, but with your snaz guns, that's going to be a lot of damage, trust me. Looters though, you can have an additional 10, so you can have 15 in one squad. Now 15 with those death guns, yeah, their ballistic skill isn't any better because they've spent all their life, you know, looting weapons and firing weapons, which is a bit strange. I would have liked to have seen one bump up in that, because they're kind of like weapon-based, ranged weapon specialists. Well, specialists in a way. It's strange that that hasn't rubbed off on them, even though their main focus is ranged weaponry. They're still better in combat, which, again, I question that. But they've got the death guns, which are awesome. Yeah, the ballistic skill is obviously normally pants like all the other orcs, so you're probably better off firing them at flyers because they're quite a good anti-air thing, considering if you got 5 plus for your roll for firing. You know, 6 is just, yeah, you've got so many shots going in, but I wouldn't waste 5 of them shooting at that. I'd have a good squad of 10. They're kind of like your orc devastators, so I agree that they should be in heavy support. I haven't really looked at the looters in the previous codex, were in the elite section, and that doesn't make sense. But flash kits were in the heavy support. Points wise though, compared to the old codex, looters are actually a little bit cheaper in this new codex, and you can still take 15 like you could in the old one, and their stats are very similar. They've still got the death guns. Flash kits, I think that they are cheaper as well in the new edition. A few points cheaper, and they've got this git finder thing, which, you know, if they stay still, they can fire at +1 ballistic skill, which is awesome. So in a way, you know, they're better at shooting, kind of like medium range, short range, than the looters. But that's mainly because they've got these little git finders and things that help their targeting acquisition. Anyway, so we've done it. We've got to the end of heavy support. I know this has been a really long video. I didn't want to do it in 2 parts. I wanted to do it all in one go. So as you can see, heavy support is clearly the best kind of aspect of the orc army, which I always question because they've got so many things in heavy support. I would love to see an increase, just one increase in ballistic skill, because they're mainly shooty. You can say that this army is a mainly shooty army now, and I think that's been reflected by the new rules. I think they've done that because of that, because the whole rule set is geared around a lot of shooting. But orcs haven't come off well in that. They've come off well in that they've got a lot of heavy support now, and some being questionable that it should be in this section. However, they haven't kind of built on that as well. They've given more options, but they haven't, you know, backed that up with better rules for the shooting. But anyway, that being said, I think this heavy support section is incredible. I think there's so much. There's too much choice. I'd want to get something out of all of these, even the mech guns. I think that they look really, really nice, and they'll be really useful, and they're so cheap. Battle Wagon's brilliant. I mean, as I said before, I think all of these units in here, with the exception of the Killer Cans and maybe the Gorkonaut, are quite competitive, and they're very decent. I can see why you'd go for these rather than just your normal orc boys, because they will do a lot of damage and are very shooty orientated. Anyway, thanks ever so much for watching me today. Please join me tomorrow when I will be talking about the Orcs Lord of War section. Yep, they have their own Lord of War section. It just consists of 2 models, so it'll be a short video, but I'll also include my kind of Orc Codex overview, unit overview as well included in that video. So please join me for that, and thanks ever so much for watching me this evening. Thanks again. Don't forget to comment, rate and subscribe. Take care.